It is January 24th, 1945. The frozen plains outside Holtzwihr, France, stretch endlessly under a gray sky. Snow is trampled into mud, churned by the endless traffic of men and machines. German positions, once fortified, now crack under relentless American pressure. Among the remnants of Company B, 5th 10th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy tightens his winter gloves, boots sinking into the icy ground. At just 19 years old, he commands a handful of men, barely enough to hold the line, yet every eye turns to him with silent expectation. The air is thick with the smell of spent gunpowder and smoke. German artillery hammers distant positions, each explosion shattering frozen trees, sending shards of ice raining down. Murphy scans the horizon, counting the silhouettes of approaching Panzer IVs through the blur of falling snow. Every second stretches into a lifetime as his men take cover behind the remnants of a demolished farmhouse. Each moment demands decision, judgment, courage. Murphy grips his M1 carbine, feeling its cold metal against his palms. A fellow soldier whispers that German infantry is advancing through a tree line 400 yards away. The order is simple, yet the execution is deadly. Hold. Every soldier knows that retreat could invite annihilation. Murky figures emerge from the snow, a German squad, rifles raised. Murphy signals his men. Time slows. The first shots crack the winter air, echoing across the frozen fields. Murphy ducks behind a wall of rubble, eyes fixed, breath shallow, senses straining for the faintest movements. The battle, part of the larger Colmar Pocket engagement, is not about glory. It is survival, measured in inches of ground and fleeting seconds of advantage. Murphy spots a tank emerging from the smoke. Its massive barrel points toward their position. Without hesitation, he yells for covering fire and orders his men to maneuver. Coordination is critical. One misstep can trigger a collapse. Around him, the snow is trampled into craters, men firing from behind wrecked walls, each shot a desperate attempt to slow the German advance. Murphy's voice cuts through the chaos. He directs a squad to flank the German position, knowing the frozen terrain favors no one. Explosions crack the horizon as artillery shells find their marks nearby. In the distance, a comrade is hit. Murphy drags him to safety, ignoring the risk to himself. Survival is cold, methodical, and brutal. Every decision carries weight. Hesitation is fatal. And yet, even under fire, Murphy's mind scans for every tactical advantage: terrain, cover, enemy movement. This is the calculus that will define the hours ahead. Suddenly, the roar of engines signals another panzer approaching from the east. The men freeze, knowing the thin line they hold could be overrun at any moment. Murphy calculates distance, enemy strength, and the fleeting cover offered by the broken farmhouse. Orders fly calm, precise, authoritative, but the tension is palpable. Every second could be their last, and as the tank's shadow sweeps across the snow, Murphy knows the next few minutes will decide the fate of his men. The shadow of the panzer stretches over the frozen plain. Murphy's squad holds its breath. The tank halts behind a slight rise, its turret turning methodically, scanning for targets. Murphy ducks lower, calculating distance and angle. His mind races through every possible tactic. Retreat is impossible, and the infantry cannot hold long against armor. He signals his men to hold fire, conserving ammunition for the right moment. Seconds feel like hours as the panzer's engine growls closer. A sudden whistle pierces the air. German infantry, accompanying the tank, moves forward, stepping carefully over shell craters. Murphy's eyes lock on a weak point in the tank's flank. He relays instructions with sharp precision. One soldier with a bazooka, two with supporting fire to distract the infantry, the rest providing covering fire from the farmhouse ruins. Every movement must be synchronized. Hesitation means death. The first shot from the bazooka pierces the gray morning, striking the tank's side. Smoke erupts, engine stalling momentarily, but the crew quickly recovers. German riflemen return fire, bullets striking snow and splintering wood around Murphy's position. He ducks behind a half-collapsed wall, eyes scanning for the next threat. A shell explodes nearby, hurling mud and ice into the air. He feels the chill cut through his uniform, mixing with the metallic scent of blood. Murphy moves with the precision of a seasoned officer, though his age is barely 19. He barks commands, repositioning his men, guiding them toward small rises in the terrain that offer momentary cover. Each step carries risk. Snow hides shell holes, debris, and traps laid by retreating Germans. Bullets crack overhead. A comrade cries out, a wound in his shoulder, and Murphy drags him to relative safety, pressing a field dressing into place with one hand while gesturing for others to flank the enemy. Time is a cruel enemy. The tank recovers, fires around toward the farmhouse, and Murphy's men scramble as the wall shatters in splinters. Amid the chaos, he spots movement another squad attempting to circle around from the east. He shouts warnings, reallocates fire, and signals his men to concentrate on the flanking threat. Coordination, patience, and nerve are all that stand between them and destruction. Murphy's mind is a blur of calculations. Distance, trajectory, timing, and human endurance all factor into each decision. Snow covers blood and mud alike. Each second is a gamble. The Germans are methodical, disciplined, but Murphy's men respond with dogged resolve. A tank shell slams into the ground near the farmhouse, shattering a nearby tree, sending splinters flying like deadly projectiles. Murphy pushes forward despite the whine of bullets and shrieks of wounded men. Every movement dictated by survival and strategy. The tension is unrelenting. Murphy knows reinforcements are hours away, perhaps never arriving. Each breath is a battle in itself. He counts the remaining men, checks positions, and prepares for the next inevitable assault. In this frozen, mud-choked battlefield, the fight is relentless, and Murphy's resolve will be tested to the limit. Every choice he makes now could decide not just his life, but the survival of the men who depend on him. The Panzer hesitates, smoke curling from its side where the bazooka's strike had caught it. Murphy notices a flicker of uncertainty among the German crew. Every second is precious. He signals 2 men to advance along a shallow ditch, keeping low, rifles ready. The frozen mud bites into their boots, but they press on, moving like shadows across the snow. German infantry begins to circle, attempting to exploit any weakness. Murphy spots the movement and quickly reallocates fire. He raises his arm, pointing at an exposed tree line. Machine gun fire erupts, bullets ripping into the snow and bark, forcing the Germans to crouch and change course. Every burst is deliberate, every shot calculated to maximize delay, to buy time. Murphy pivots to his right, scanning for the second wave of assault. From the farmhouse ruins, a young soldier, barely older than a boy, struggles with his rifle jammed by ice. Murphy dives to assist, clearing the barrel, teaching him to control recoil under fire. The boy nods, eyes wide, fear and determination mingled in equal measure. The snow underfoot is churned into a mixture of mud, blood, and shattered ice. Survival here is measured in inches, in moments, in the sharp sting of frozen wind against bare skin. The Panzer suddenly lurches forward, engine coughing, its turret rotating toward the American position. Murphy ducks instinctively as the first round splashes into the wall beside him, sending shards of brick and mortar flying. Orders ring out, shouted over the roar of engines and gunfire. Move left. Cover the flank. His voice cuts through the chaos, every word weighted with command authority. Another shell strikes nearby, exploding a crater in the frozen ground. Murphy's squad reacts instantly, falling into defensive positions as bullets ricochet and snow flies. From the northeast, German infantry press the attack, but Murphy anticipates their route. He directs men to create a crossfire, using the terrain's frozen rises and abandoned shell craters. Each man moves with precision, though exhaustion etches deep lines into their faces. A sudden flare illuminates the battlefield, casting long shadows across the churned snow. Murphy notices a second tank emerging from the smoke to the west. He knows the fight is tipping toward a critical point. The men glance at him for guidance, some gripping their rifles with white-knuckled hands, others tightening bayonets. There is no panic, only cold resolve. Murphy's calculations extend beyond immediate survival. Ammunition is low, men are wounded, yet the line must hold until reinforcements arrive. His eyes dart constantly, scanning for gaps in enemy formations. He directs a small group to feign retreat, drawing the Germans into exposed ground. The maneuver is risky, but the slightest misstep could collapse the defense. Snow mixes with mud and blood, the acrid smell of spent gunpowder, heavy in the air. Time seems suspended. Murphy's heartbeat echoes in his ears. Another shell hits, closer this time. The farmhouse shudders, half its walls already gone. He peers over the rubble, tracking the tank's movement, calculating angles and potential blind spots. Every decision is measured against the clock of survival, against the relentless advance of the enemy. And then, above the din, a German squad breaks from cover, rushing toward the exposed ditch. Murphy prepares to respond, knowing the next few moments will determine life or death. The German squad breaks into the open, snow crunching beneath their boots. Murphy tightens his grip on the M1 carbine, senses razor sharp. He signals his men, a brief gesture that sets them into action. The flanking crossfire erupts. Bullets tear through the frozen air, striking snow and ice, splintering wood, and forcing the enemy to stagger. Every soldier reacts with precision. Hesitation here is death. Murphy moves along the ditch, guiding his men like a conductor orchestrating chaos. He notices a gap in exposed German advancing alone. With a steady aim, he fires, and the soldier collapses into the snow. There is no time to mourn, no time to hesitate. The battlefield is a cruel calculus. Action, reaction, survival. The Panzer to the east crests a rise, turret swiveling, engine growling. Murphy signals for covering fire, and men respond, bullets chipping at its tracks. Smoke and steam rise from the tank's wounded side, a testament to previous strikes, but it remains a formidable threat. Each second it advances, each meter it moves, changes the dynamics of the fight. Shells explode around the farmhouse ruins, hurling debris and splinters into the bitter air. Murphy spots another German squad attempting to circle behind a snowdrift. He reacts instantly, shouting commands, repositioning men, coordinating flanking fire with precision. Every movement is calculated. Every order counts. The young soldier Murphy, assisted earlier, now fires with controlled focus, the fear replaced by grim determination. A distant roar signals artillery from the American lines. The impact sends snow and mud into the air, a momentary advantage that Murphy exploits. He orders a forward push, inching men closer to the wrecked panzer. Shouts and gunfire fill the air, overlapping with the mechanical growl of tanks and the whine of bullets. Murphy's mind calculates trajectories, distance, enemy response. The cold, relentless winter becomes both ally and adversary, masking movement but amplifying exhaustion. Murphy spots a rifle muzzle poking from behind a half-collapsed wall. He fires, the recoil biting into his shoulder, and the soldier slumps. Another shell explodes nearby, shaking the ground and showering snow over him. He stands, scans, and signals to regroup. Every second counts. Reinforcements are nowhere in sight. He knows the men must survive this engagement themselves. From the smoke, a second panzer fires, its shells landing closer, shaking rubble and men alike. Murphy's squad adapts, using terrain and craters to reduce exposure. He coordinates suppressive fire while calculating angles to strike the tank's side with what little bazooka ammunition remains. Sweat and snow mix on his face, breath visible in the freezing air, every heartbeat a countdown. Suddenly, a German squad emerges from the northeast, attempting a final push toward the farmhouse. Murphy braces, giving orders that split his men into fire teams. Machine guns, rifles, and grenades converge on the attackers. The clash is brutal, close, immediate snow flying, ice shattering, men diving for cover. Every movement, every shot is a test of nerve, skill, and survival instinct. And yet, even as Murphy fights with calculated precision, he knows that this battle is only a fragment of a larger war. The Colmar Pocket is collapsing around them. Each victory here may only delay the inevitable. But in this frozen, shattered landscape, there is no room for surrender, only action. The next moments will define the lives of the men under his command and perhaps his own. The German push collapses under concentrated fire. Bodies fall into the snow, momentum broken, but the danger is far from over. Murphy does not allow relief to settle. His eyes stay on the tanks. The battlefield quiets for a fraction of a second, then the Panzer's engine revs, harder, closing the distance. The ground trembles beneath its weight. Murphy shifts positions, moving alone across open snow, bullets snapping past him. He reaches the burning wreck of a destroyed M10 tank destroyer, its crew long gone, flames licking at twisted steel. The machine gun mounted atop it is still intact. Murphy climbs onto the hull, ignoring the heat, ignoring the exposure. From here, the entire field is visible. He opens fire. The .50 caliber machine gun roars, cutting across the snow-covered advance. German infantry scatter, dropping into craters, hugging the ground. Murphy keeps firing in controlled bursts, sweeping left to right, denying movement. Tracers rip through smoke and snowfall. The battlefield belongs to the gun for these moments. The panzers respond immediately. A shell slams into the frozen earth just meters away, the concussion nearly throwing Murphy from the burning vehicle. He steadies himself, continues firing. The gun overheats, steam mixing with smoke and falling snow. Below him, his remaining men reposition, taking advantage of the suppression he provides. This is no heroic stand, this is pure tactical necessity. The Germans recognize the threat. Infantry fire converges on Murphy's position. Bullets tear through metal, sparks flashing across the wreck. He stays on the gun. Each burst forces the enemy back, buying seconds that keep his line alive. Another tank advances, its turret locking onto the burning. None 10. Murphy hears this engine shift pitch. He knows what comes next. He fires one final burst, then braces. The shell hits. The blast throws him from the vehicle into the snow. The world collapses into sound and white light. When he lands, pain floods through his body legs, numb, ears ringing. He lies still, forcing himself to breathe. Snow settles onto his face, cold and quiet. Slowly he moves. Despite his injuries, Murphy crawls back toward his men. Around him, the field is littered with wreckage and smoke. German movement has slowed, disrupted. The advance has stalled. The tanks hesitate, uncertain now, their infantry pinned or scattered. Murphy reaches the line, pulls himself into cover, and resumes command. His voice is hoarse but steady. Ammunition is counted. Wounded are identified. Fields of fire are re-established. There is no celebration, only preparation. The Germans have not withdrawn. They are regrouping. Snow continues to fall, softening the battlefield, disguising bodies and shell craters alike. Murphy looks across the field, eyes locked on the silhouettes of tanks and infantry reshaping in the distance. He knows the attack will come again, and when it does, there may be nothing left to stop it. The German line reforms slowly, cautiously. Smoke drifts across the field like a low fog muffling sound, hiding movement. Murphy watches from the shallow crater, pain radiating through his legs, his body stiffening as adrenaline fades. He forces himself upright. There is no time to rest. Not here. The tanks idle at a distance now. Their advance has stalled not because they lack firepower, but because coordination has fractured. Infantry hesitate without clear armor support. Armor waits for infantry that no longer moves forward with confidence. Murphy recognizes the pattern instantly. He adjusts his men's fields of fire, exploiting the pause. Every surviving rifle is placed with intention. The German assault, once synchronized, now advances in fragments, small groups, probing rather than committing. The Americans fire sparingly. Each shot matters. A panzer inches forward, then stops again. From the German side, orders are shouted, repeated, contradicted. Radios crackle. Smoke obscures line of sight. Murphy sees it clearly. This is no longer momentum, it is hesitation. The Germans still have tanks, still have men, but they no longer have unity of action. Minutes stretch. The battlefield grows quiet enough to hear engines idling, wind cutting through shattered trees. The German commander hesitates too long. When infantry finally move again, they advance without armor cover. Murphy's men open fire. The push collapses almost immediately. Then distant engines from the rear. American reinforcements arrive at last, moving cautiously into the frozen plain. The Germans recognize it instantly. Tanks begin pulling back, reversing into smoke. Infantry withdraw in disciplined steps, covering one another, retreating not in panic but in resignation. The Colmar Pocket begins to close. Murphy watches the enemy fall back, not with triumph, but with exhaustion. His hands shake as the firing stops. Around him the field is silent, except for groans of the wounded and the crackle of burning wreckage. Snow continues to fall, settling gently over bodies, shell craters, twisted steel. This fight will barely register on a map, and yet this is where the truth lives. Nazi Germany does not lose this war because its soldiers stop fighting. They fight fiercely, even now. They lose because moments like this multiply across Europe where rigid command structures fail under pressure, where initiative is punished rather than rewarded, where coordination collapses faster than courage. Here, a 19-year-old American lieutenant adapts faster than an armored force built on doctrine, not flexibility. Here, tanks wait for orders that never arrive. Here, hesitation costs ground, and ground, once lost, is never regained. Murphy is evacuated hours later, wounded but alive. His men hold the line. The pocket closes. German resistance in the region crumbles within days. The war grinds on, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. Germany did not lose World War II in a single battle. It lost it thousands of times like this, in snow, in smoke, in moments where command failed and adaptability won. And on this frozen field near Holtzwihr, the collapse is already underway.